Today, I'm lucky to have the chance to speak with Antonio Nieto-Rodríguez, who is an internationally recognized thought leader in the area of project management. He wrote the HBR Manual Guide to Project Management. He published an article in 2021 about the rise of the new project economy. He's been the president of the Project Management Institute, and he designed the Strategic Project Leadership Program here at IE. Join me and let's see what Antonio has to share with us. Antonio, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you back here with us at IE. You've recently relocated from Brussels to Madrid with GSK. What are you up to these days?
Yeah, Lee, so I just moved after more than 20 years abroad. I just said, let's go back home thanks to the pandemic and the home working. So in GSK, I'm doing one of the most exciting projects I've ever done in my career, which is the sustainability transformation, which is one of these projects with impact and a very strong purpose. So it's really a very exciting project to be doing.
I noticed you said it's a project, of course.
Yeah, of course.
So you, I guess at the end of 2021, you wrote this article for Harvard Business Review about the rise, essentially, of the project economy. I think we all know that the new world of work, there's structural changes happening in the workplace. Tell us a little bit about what you see going on.
Well, every time there's a big change, we are afraid, right? And I think it takes time to recognize. And what I call the project economy was saying that the future of work or the current type of work is moving from very operational type of work into project-based work. And that has massive disruption. It's having companies where I work or advise and support, they said, well, we don't want anybody working for operations anymore. Everything has to be automated, done by robots. And then you question what happens with people? What do they do? And that's where people start getting to be afraid, but also seeing lots of opportunities. And that's what I call the project economy. We're moving from a model that has been there for 100 years, where it's very much focused on operations, to a model which is very, very much focused on projects and change. And I call it moving from the world driven by efficiency to a world driven by change.
Okay, and so, so it's operations. I talk to executives, I hear things about the disappearance of the concept of jobs as the organizing principle of work and the reorganization of work around projects. What exactly is going on there?
It's scary because I think everybody watching this, they will have a job description. No, I've been 30 years working. I always had a job description. Some cases they say, well, write your own job descriptions. We don't have it. So I think what happens is, like big companies, cases like IBM, they realized they had 100,000 job descriptions, but people were not working in the job descriptions. They were working on priorities, on new initiatives, on projects, and they would move to one project to another. So they decided to cancel all the job descriptions and give people project roles. And they will play a role based on their skills and competencies and interests for 6 months, 9 months, and then move to the next project. It's a bit scary for people who are not used to working projects and change, which is the majority, but it's also very exciting and brings a lot of new opportunities.
So does that mean that so I'm not my job title anymore as an employee?
Exactly.
I'm the set of skills that I bring to bear on whatever projects I get assigned to. So what are the implications for that in terms of how we recruit in companies and how we do that? How are we going to do that kind of assignment of people to projects?
It's a very radical change, and HR, for example, has to play a big role driving this, because you cannot stay with the job description. It's different structures. It's very flat organizations. You don't have hierarchies anymore. It's maybe 2-3 levels. So one of the most struggling persons and type of profiles is the senior leaders, because they're used to have 5-6 levels below, and suddenly you just have one. So I think it requires a lot of coaching, adaptation, taking risks. But the good side is that people love to work in projects, because every day is different. You can take decisions, you can creativity, you put that into place, you try to solve problems. So I think there's a challenge indeed, which we're moving from something stable to something fluid, But when HR and the senior leaders embrace that, there's lots of benefits. Maybe just to give you an example that I always talk about, the future of work. Mm-hmm. Imagine, we all know this gig economy, which is the Cabifys, the Ubers, the Uber Eats. These are independent people who work for a company, and you call them up. I think that what we're going to see is this project economy, or project gig economy within the organization. So I work for Telefonica, and I can choose where I work. There's an app where you have a list of skills, list of projects, and me, I'm a worker for Telefonica. I choose on my phone, I want to work on that. So that's the gig economy within the companies. And that's, I think, where we're going.
So there can still be stability. I'm working for Telefonica, exactly, or IBM or Google or whatever the company is.
Yes.
It's just that it's more fluid in the sense of what I'm going to be doing.
And you empower the people. You can choose where you want to work. I'm talking precisely with Google about this in US, about what's the future of work look like. And what's interestingly here is, what if we make this concept applicable for all your partners? So you can work for 9 months in Google and then work for one of their partners again. So you make it even more fluid, and it's just a very exciting future view.
So projects can, what you're saying, I think, is that projects then can actually transcend the boundary of the organization.
Exactly.
And so now I'm working for my company, but I'm doing projects that involve the customer. I get to know the customer, and so there's a greater integration through projects between
or non-profit,
stakeholders
to say,
in the company.
I want to work for this non-profit that we fund for 6 months and then come back. So I think that the boundaries that we were seeing into your silo, your department, your business unit, they completely get destroyed, and you see the world very differently. So I'm very excited about that, Nick.
Well, and you're an international leader of project management and project leadership. So it's and you've been saying this for a long time, right? I mean,
10 years.
Has that been a tough battle?
Well, it started when actually I was fired, and I don't say this publicly very often, but I don't mind. I was fired from a big company where senior leaders didn't appreciate project management. They said, project management, that's boring, that's tactical, we cannot charge high fees. I was working for a big consulting company, and that was very disappointing, because for me, projects run change and very important, and the senior leaders, they didn't appreciate that, and that led to research around business schools that teach project management in the MBA. I had finished my MBA and in London, and I was surprised that this top school didn't teach project management. The only thing I knew, it was not in the core curriculum. So I started to wonder why MBAs, top business schools, don't teach project management to future leaders. So that was one of the gaps. The other gaps was HBR. HBR didn't publish on project management. They said, this is not for us. And it took me like 15 years to convince, and now it's one of the hottest topics for HBR.
And you wrote the guide to project management for Harvard Business Review.
Yeah.
So in 15 years at convincing HBR that was an important.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm happy to be here with AI, because I know you care about project management. You've been bold enough to put it as one of your top.
Yeah, we call it impact skills. I mean, exactly. The idea that you have your hard skills that are job specific, but people need to have the skills to make things happen at work, whether that's selling or problem solving. And we've made project management one of those core skills, because it's something that people do every day, which is why we would call it core. But tell me a little bit about what project management is. I mean, I think a lot of people, they hear project management and it sounds, a little bit like an old school. It's not a term that glows, but now it does. And what's different? What is the project canvas that you have invented?
So one of the things that I was chairman of Project Management Institute in 2016. And one of the things that I wanted to focus is, I love projects, and we see a rise in projects everywhere, but the performance on projects is poor, it's appalling. It's like 60 to 70% of projects fail. How is that possible? That's one of the reasons why people don't care about project management, because what's the result? You lose all the time. You make projects, you launch projects, but they're just not successful. So one of the things that I spent 5 years at least was, how can we improve? How can we make project management more successful? How can we move from the past to a more modern way of managing projects. And there, I think you know, Lee, you've been also working in this space. Agile was super popular. And there has been a big fight between either you're Agile or you're project manager. And to the point that Agile doesn't talk about project management, but they do projects. It's about change. And I'm saying in this new concept that we're teaching in IE in the program is embrace. Agile is great, but also you need traditional project management, and you need Lean Startup, and you need Six Sigma. So we're moving from one tool to address all the projects to a set of tools. It's a toolbox. And I think that's what I like to call is we're building tool sets. We're building competencies in organization, which is very different. In the past, organizations were just training project managers to manage projects. Today, organizations are training everyone to manage, to be part of projects, including senior leaders. So we're moving from this old project management to something modern that gives you the tools to manage different aspects of projects.
And tell me a little bit about, I mean, you have this kind of project canvas. Yeah. And is that the toolkit that integrates these different
so the project canvas started, it's one of the reasons I study why senior leaders don't appreciate project management. One, they don't follow courses. Second, HBR and senior, kind of more executive business management magazines or Peter Drucker Forum, or they were not talking about project management. The third one is project management is super complicated. It's just, it pushes you away. If you want to learn project management, I tell you, read this book, it's 600 pages, nobody will do that. Right. So we had overcomplified project management, and when you try to teach that, it's probably one of the most boring things to do because it's just paperwork. So what I got inspired by, this business model canvas from Alex Osterwald and Yves Pignon. I know them, so I had a lot of exchanges with them to ask them, how do you summarize a business in one page? I have problems to summarize a project in a page. We usually have 30 pages. So I just got inspiration, and it was a work of like 2 years trying to put everything in one page. And if you do that one page, your chances of succeeding in your projects is much, much higher. And it's easy to teach, it's fun to teach, it's fun to use.
So in successes, I guess you deliver it on time or early, and on budget or under budget.
Yeah.
And what percentage of, in your experience, what percentage of projects come in over budget or late?
There's lots of work. One recently from a professor in Oxford who I really appreciate. He has researched 15,000 projects. He said up to just 5% of the projects are delivered on time.
5%?
Yeah, 5%. He's looking at mega projects. But one thing, Lee, that is important, and we teach is you could eventually be late. You could eventually be over budget. But what really matters in project today is benefits, is results, is impact. I always show this picture in the class, is the Sagrada Familia. That project is 100 years late.
The construction in Barcelona.
Yeah, in Barcelona, the construction. And do they care if they're late? No. Why? Because people are going to visit. They're making revenues every year. And the good thing about this in Barcelona, in Sagrada Familia, is that people go every year to see what has changed. They just don't go once and they visit it, but every year they go. So I want to shift also the concept of what is project success. Project success is on time, on budget, but more important, delivering the impact, delivering the benefit, delivering the impact in the environment, reducing that. That's what really matters. That's why we do projects.
And the Project Management Institute, PMI, has this well-known certificate, the PMP,
Correct.
that you see on people's LinkedIn profiles, right? Yeah. How many people roughly globally have earned the PMP?
Last time I checked, it was more than 10 million. 10 million people are PMP certified.
Certified in project management.
Incredible, yes.
So it's incredible. So you have 10 million people who have earned this in a corporate environment, right? And yet when you look at most business schools, it's not in the core curriculum.
And so that's what the feedback I was getting. Why business schools don't teach it? Why business schools don't embrace project management? So I'm super happy with IE that you are taking the step to include that as something core. And I think this is changing the career of many people. I'm convinced.
And so regardless of when we think about business functions, I could be working in finance or branding or operations or whatever it might be. Project management it spans functions, right? I mean, in a certain sense, everyone manages projects.
Yeah, even in our personal lives, we do projects, right? I always say there's one project in our lives that is always on time. The wedding. Have you ever seen a wedding being late? No, they're on time. So what do we do in a wedding project that makes it so successful? Can we do that with your IT projects, let's see what we can relate. So by nature, human beings work with projects, but we've not embraced the learnings into the workplace. And we make projects at work boring and difficult and complex. And they are complex, but we need to take them with the same passion as we do some of our personal projects, right? People, when they study an MBA in IE, they love it. It's a project for them. It's one of the most difficult projects in their lives, the MBA.
As a project, yeah.
Exactly. But they're all passionate. They have a purpose. They're ready to take the difficult time because they see an outcome, which is, I'm going to be better. I'm going to be a better leader. So we do lots of projects, but unfortunately in the workplace, everything is much more complicated.
I mean, speaking of better, so we have this idea of the next best you, and it has the career, the hard skills, upskilling part. It has the impact, making things happen.
Yeah.
Project management now sits. And you mentioned the word purpose as well. So, I talk to people of a variety of different levels, in early career, mid-career, even later career people, and the word purpose comes up, meaning people wanting to use their business skills to, in a sense, do great things for the world, make a better world. So imagine I'm one of, I want to use my business skills to make a difference, let's say in sustainability or for society outside of my core job. Why do I need to learn project management to do that?
Well, Lee, I think I love the concept of purpose, but you cannot achieve anything without the project that goes with the purpose. If you're not ready to invest time to learn what will this project look like, what are the key milestones, what do we want to achieve, what's the team that I need to, so you need to have the basic understanding, the foundation, the fundamentals to make your project, which is make a better planning, successful. And if you don't have that clarity, you don't know what you need to do, you're going to do the best you can for sure, but it's not going to be successful. So I'm just giving you the tools, the mindset, the things that work in a simpler way that you will be more successful with your project to achieve what you want, to achieve your purpose. So that's the goal.
And so, we've, in the last years, we've experienced many things. Natural disasters, armed conflict, we've had a pandemic. Can you give maybe some flavor, some examples of how project management has contributed in some ways to our response to these problems?
I'm writing a new article on the response for the earthquake in Syria and Turkey. Because that's projects, and the better you do the projects, the better you can provide solutions to people that need that. So absolutely, when you see this catastrophe, a great example for me has been one of this magic formula that we get sometimes in the world to deliver the COVID vaccine. And there are different companies, Moderna, Pfizer, AstraZeneca. But what is amazing in this case was a project that usually would take 10 to 12 years. If you would say, I can develop a vaccine in 9 years, they would say, you're crazy. Absolutely, you're crazy. You're fired because this is impossible. And suddenly they do that in 10 months. How can we, and working virtually, because it's not that we were, how can we work in a project and do it 10 times faster? How can we do that in a complex, very complex setting? So I've researched this project, obviously, and that's the formula that if you want to succeed in projects, you have the example. And not just succeed, but do them faster. So I always say we could solve any problem in the world if we would take the same approach that we did for the COVID vaccine. We have all the elements there to be a successful project. So I'm very excited about that because we've seen how we can work together if we want, and there's a purpose, like you say, a sense of urgency. We can make amazing things, and we have the examples very recent.
And so, to go from 10 years as a typical project duration for a vaccine, for example, down to 10 months.
Imagine.
That happens. So that happens. Yeah. So, can you point to particular elements of project management or the project canvas where the innovation happen from the standpoint of project management that allowed this reduction from 10 years to 10 months?
Yeah, good question, Lee. There's the point of, I think, we've been working on vaccines very sequential, and we thought you can never work in Agile, so iterative. So let's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and that would be 3 years, 3 years, 3 years. Why don't we change that? Why don't we do a bit of phase 1, then start phase 2 straight away? And we continue with phase 1, phase 2. So the Agile approaches were starting to be used in these kind of more stable projects. The flexibility from regulators said, I'm open to anything. We need to, so when you get like all the partners impacted in the project with a positive mindset that they want to solve it, you can remove a lot of the bureaucracy, the blockers, and really go fast. But like you say, we have the formula. So what is your project? I always ask project managers, what's your timeline for your project? What do you need? They say 1 year. What do you need to do it in 1 month? And then that triggers innovation as well. What do you need to make everything faster?
So in the case of vaccines, it sounds like taking sequential and turning it and parallelizing it in some ways, and also some factors related to non-market. I mean, the regulation went away or reduced to allow this to happen.
There's one point where I didn't mention, but senior leaders played a huge important role. So all the big projects that happen in IE, I would expect somebody like you sponsoring. And what we saw with the COVID vaccine is that the CEOs of these companies were fully dedicated to that project. It was 100% dedication. I was talking in a conference with the CEO of Pfizer, and he said, I spent all my time on the project of the COVID, all my time. And I asked him, how much time were you spending in projects before? He said, I didn't have time for projects before. I didn't spend any time. Yeah. So when you get the CEO supporting a project, you have more chances to succeed. And one of the HBR editors told me, your projects are your future. Mm-hmm. And I told him, listen, you cannot imagine how poorly people work in their future.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. So I think there's a strong message there for all people who manage projects, which, if I heard correctly, which is really, you need to understand the power and politics of your organization to get sponsorship and support from as high up as possible to drive your project faster, get more resources, et cetera, right? Correct. So I mean, so it's not just the project management, but it's power and politics and learning to navigate and manage that for the benefit of your project and your project team.
Absolutely. We spent a big time of the program, at least one session on sponsorship and how can we influence senior leaders to support our projects, because it is really a key success factor, at least for the most important ones.
And well, thanks for joining. It's been fantastic to talk to you. One last question. So, if I think about let's say our early career alumni, so people that have recently entered the workforce, as business professionals or kind of on their way up, any word of advice you'd like to share with them?
Well, I believe these younger generations are the ones that are going to really make the changes in the world. I realize that we talk about sustainability, we talk about poverty, but these more senior people don't have the energy, they always see blockers, and I always think that the younger generation, if they're trained correctly, if they're supported, if they're encouraged, if we provide them the right tools, the project management, the Agile, they can change the world. So I really encourage these younger generations to believe, to dream big. I always talk about the project of Zlatan Boydan. He's the guy who started the Clean the Ocean project. Mm-hmm. He went to Greece, he started to scuba dive, and he just saw more plastic than fishes. And he said, I want to clean the ocean. He didn't say, I want to clean my bathroom or I want to clean the swimming pool. He said, I want to clean the whole ocean. This was a kid of 18 years old. Why don't we have more like that? This is what I tell the younger generation. You are the ones who are going to change the world. Here are the tools. Just believe and make it happen. We'll support you.
So big changes out there, structural changes in, I would say, the organization of work, this new world of work. Some big structural changes, and it sounds to me like project management, project leadership is really a strategic skill that all of us need to think about. So thank you very much for
Thank you, Lee, for
joining.
having me.
Very insightful.
Thank you.